So welcome to Baxa Rupiana. This is a typical military installation of the former communist times. They were built on these hills above the Albanian Sea in order to show somehow protect Albania from the world. It was the most protected country. They were really very afraid of the imperialist invasion, not to come, by the way. We never wanted to attack Albania, but obviously that was the history. You see all these hills with military installation, all the border with ex-Yugoslavia, with bunkers. There was not a single straight motorway built for fear of using it as a landing strip for the invasion. There was no road built to the coast. All this is as it was, yeah. And there was an investment then after 2000 where all these access roads were built in order to build these touristic facilities. There's also no kind of serious harbor, just a minimum in Flora and in Durrës because of this, because harbors, motorways, everything beyond, they had no money to build it, but they also built some industrial assets with the help of Chinese. So it's not only money, it's the ideology, which is here a very nice proof of it. It was the ideology of bunkerisimi, it was the ideology of isolationism. The world is hostile, nobody understands us. We are the only ones who are good and the rest of the world is hostile. Who wants to flee the country was put into a prison camp or killed outright when he was caught, and his whole family was put in a prison camp, and he was often then punished by death. Yeah? They hang him on some electricity wire, or barbed wire was used as well for strangulation, and a lot of criminal activities by the communist regime. Here, this is one of the places, should be a monument. One day it will be a beautiful hotel here in Zorilla, I'm sure, and it will be all very nice. And the history should not be forgotten of bunkerisimi, of Enver Hoxha, of death penalty for the flight of the Republic, and internment camp. That means hard labor for all families, also the extended family. If you had the same family name, like somebody who fled the Republic, you were a candidate for this, and then you were meant to be in a concentration camp style. Of course, not extermination camp, but they were kept for decades. My best friend here was 30 years, from zero. He was born there because of his father's or uncle's involvement in the Bali Komtar, and he was kept in such a concentration camp until he was 30 when communism fell and they could leave again. I'm now walking on some of these unpaved roads further north. I'm not walking until Porto Romano, but I'm also curious to see. And I thought it's interesting for you to see some of these reality unpaved roads and luxury hotels in between. This was a very luxury hotel. Actually, the security detail of the EU ambassador was just coming in, and the EU ambassador was also wining and dining at the same place. Why he needs a double security detail to go on Sunday to lunch, that I cannot understand, but maybe it's very dangerous here. And anyhow, he has the right for a driver, and so let's be merciful. But nevertheless, the situation is, it's a very peaceful country. Just don't start arguments with the guys. That could be bad. And I really love it. It has a great touristic potential. All this is untouched still to build, and it will be built. Will be developed under European situation. It will be very successful. Outside it will take many more decades. Inside it will go very fast. And let's see what we can discover here. And I have decided also to make a video about tourism sector, specifically some of the anomalies of the Albanian tourism sector expected to come up very soon. But now still let me share this historic thinking about the past. You know, it was bunkerisimi. That was of course having a lot of effect. And it's also one of the big differences between Albanians and from Albania and Albania from Kosovo, because this whole legacy of the terrible communist regime has left a different kind of divided nation, deeply traumatized because of the past and deeply divided between the Democrats and the Socialists, between the former prosecuted, politically imprisoned, and the people who were imprisoning them, basically the Socialists and their families, and the Democrats who were the prosecuted ones. That's a deep division in this society up to now, and it's of course a lot of suspicion towards foreigners, deeply implanted from the time of Enver Hoxha, and also then these deep divisions of the policy was making a deep impact. And it's also the big difference between Kosovo Albanians and between Albanians, because in Kosovo there is a big difference. You know, there was a unity against the Serb terror regime, and they were basically, of course, also divided, and there was also spies and collaborators, but mainly it was we against them. We built the state despite the suppressors, and we built it together, so there's huge solidarity between Kosovo Albanians, and it's very nice. And the situation is very different in Albania, where there was never the external enemy was of course Greece and Italy, Yugoslavia, but it was different in terms of internally there was such a big division and hatred, and it's also a deep distrust. Everybody is very cagey, careful not to engage, not to expose his political views or whatever. And so now of course the political views, yes, but not to tell about the private life, and so about the finances, everybody very careful here. This is of course and the deep tradition of this kind of terrible history, the legacy of Enver Hoxha's deep divisions. And obviously the whole topic of coping with the past is still to come here in this country. And again, it's very beautiful. Here's another resort. I've not been. I will check it out, try to have a coffee here, and also talk about the tourism sector, because the past is too tragic. I covered it already so much, but you see also here at the coast all these installations of the past are there, and now they are replaced by major touristic assets. Beautiful and nice. And here I'm walking along. I don't know if there's another hotel. I risk it a bit, but I'm rediscovering Albania after more or less 10 years when I had to leave. I apologize to Abu Malai because he's a very nice guy, he's a friend. I mixed him up with Ahmetai, this terrible corrupt guy who has called me to his office and told me to leave. 2013 it was. Yeah, I mix the names up from time to time, you know, for a history podcaster to be. Oh, I don't claim that to be. There's really great guys out there. I make advertisement for the history of Yugoslavia, one of the best podcasts, and also the history of Bulgaria. They are the best who talk about the Balkans, and obviously many others. But these two are really very good. History of Albania. Look, I still have to write it. It will be a major work. Maybe I will do it, I don't know. I love it, but will I have the time and the effort? Anyhow, I tell you what I know, and I tell you what's going on here. I try to keep you posted. Obviously, Enver Hoxha's regime, they were then in piggybacking on the success of the Yugoslavian partisans and ultimately Churchill agents here in the Mediterranean Balkan theater. That was his pet region. He wanted to liberate the Balkans in many efforts, so he gave massive weapons to Tito, and so Tito could defeat both the Nazis and also the Chetniks. And a similar history, obviously in a smaller theater here, was to take place, and it was like that. They never said thank you to the United Kingdom, and always claimed they themselves have liberated, yeah, so much. Yeah, the German army defeated by the Albanian partisans, or even the Chetniks and the partisans from Yugoslavia, without American, no, basically mostly British material, financial support, logistics involved, leadership. They had all the British guys. You can see also Alistair MacLean, the great model of James Bond, and his famous book on the Balkans. You have to read it. It's an amazing one, and basically the partisans informed, led and coordinated, logistically supplied by the British via Egypt, and that gave them also the means to succeed. I don't say they were not brave, yeah, and they were fighting a just cause to liberate the Balkans from Nazi terror, but they were not these grandiose winners of the game. They themselves